Going into his fight against Khabib Nurmagomedov, Paul Hughes was the undeniable underdog. With a 13-1 record, the 27-year-old Irishman was going against the cousin of Khabib Nurmagomedov, under whose tutelage fighters rarely seem to lose, particularly those from Dagestan and especially those sharing his last name. And with Usman's dismissive attitude, it seemed like he was convinced that he was going to steamroll Paul Hughes as well.
You can do it here.
Few days.
If you want, you can do it here.
Do what?
Whatever you want.
Bro, we're fighting in 4 days. You focus on that day.
I'm focused all day, every day.
You're looking past
Doesn't
me.
matter.
You're looking past me.
Who are you?
Exactly.
Get out of here.
But being that MMA is the most unpredictable sport on the planet, on the night of the fight, things did not go as intended. And Paul Hughes put him through absolute hell, surprising him with his fluid grappling that he used to offset the predictable but rarely countered Dagestani wrestling. And even though he lost the fight on the scorecards, Usman looked shell-shocked in the post-fight interview and gave him the utmost respect.
It was a great fight for me. I go to the deep ocean and I know what I can do for the next time. And I literally underestimate this guy.
And he wasn't the only one, as many of those watching at home were convinced that Hughes did enough to earn the victory. One of those being Conor McGregor, who praised his countryman on X. But just a couple of days later, footage emerged from the inside of the octagon where Hughes seemed to distance himself from McGregor when he was speaking with Khabib.
The media try to make us like not respect, but you know I always have respect.
Likely in an effort to extend an olive branch after Khabib praised Ireland in a post-fight speech. And naturally, as anything concerning Khabib tends to do, this touched a major nerve with Conor. And he went on a tirade against Hughes in the midst of which he told him to take off the Irish flag because he, quote, knew what he was from up there. To which Hughes issued a relatively subdued response, considering that this was major disrespect to somebody from Northern Ireland like he was.
I wasn't offended at all, and you know, now a lot of people in Ireland, especially in the north of Ireland, will be like, couldn't be any more deeply offended as the thing he said, but I'm not actually offended or didn't take it personally at all, because it sounds bad, but it just seems like it's another day in his life of being just tweeting madness. You know, it's not like I seen that and went, oh, you know, I can't believe he said this about me. I think it's just another day in the life for him, and I just don't hold weight to his opinion anymore as to these sorts of things. And it's kind of a sad thing to say that, but that's actually just the reality of how I felt. In fact, I kind of just laughed at it when I seen it. It's not something I've been thinking about all day and going, oh, this and my identity and this and that. It's like, yeah, initially I was like, don't come with my identity, like that's ridiculous. But then I was just like, this guy, he's on one, like, and I just don't care.
To those not from Ireland or the UK that are curious as to why what Conor said to Hughes is considered to be so provocative and controversial, this video is for you. In it, I'll explain why Conor implying that Hughes isn't really Irish is one of the most sensitive topics in that side of the world. Paul Hughes represents Northern Ireland, which is a separate entity from the rest of Ireland. Because when England began to colonize Ireland in the 12th century, the northern part of it proved to be especially resistant. So in order to soften it up, they began moving people from England and Scotland there, giving them land. These people were Protestant, while Ireland was Catholic, and they identified with England a lot more than the rest of Ireland, receiving preferential treatment from what they considered to be the mainland. And over generations, that part of Ireland began to look at itself as an extension of England, culturally and socially. And English people generally considered themselves to be much better than the Irish, viewing them as being lazy and dumb. And because of that attitude, they offered inadequate relief during the Irish potato famine that lasted from 1845 to 1852, which led to thousands of Irish people starving to death and the already present anti-British sentiment to grow at an exponential rate, which in turn led to Ireland trying to separate themselves from British rule in a series of clashes known as the Irish War for Independence or the Anglo-Irish War. And this separated Ireland into two groups, loyalists and separatists, with Northern Ireland largely being loyalist and backing the British government government, and the rest being separatists and wanting to secede. Eventually, a treaty was signed in 1921 allowing Ireland to become independent, with the caveat that Northern Ireland stayed part of the United Kingdom. This led the Catholic population of the mostly Protestant Northern Ireland to face discrimination. With the government and the police force being mostly Protestant and loyal to England, it was next to impossible to find a job or to get a vote as a Catholic, as how much your vote counted was determined by how much property you held, and most of the property was held by Protestants, therefore most of the voting was done by them as well.
There was no promotion, if you were a Catholic, you just didn't get promotion. The Imperial Civil Service, if you worked in England, in London, you would get promotion, but if you were in the Northern Ireland Civil Service, there were people who weren't as experienced as you who were promoted over you.
This caused major civil unrest, to which Britain passed a law allowing anybody to be arrested without reason at the government's discretion, which led to thousands of Catholics being unfairly placed in internment camps, and for people to take to the streets with civil protests in response, which culminated in an event in 1972 called Bloody Sunday, where British forces were deployed to stop a protest, opening fire on the crowd and killing 13 unarmed Catholic civilians. This only ignited the movement, leading to a decades-long civil war known as the Troubles, between the Catholic nationalists fighting under the banner of the IRA or the Irish Republican Army, and the Protestant Unionists fighting under the banner of the UDA or the Ulster Defense Association. This was a bloody, brutal conflict lasting until 1998, where civilians were often victims of car bombings and shootings, ultimately resulting in over 3,500 deaths. These days, Northern Ireland neighborhoods are divided with giant fences known as peace walls, separating the Catholic and Protestant crowds. And while the conflict is technically over, it was recent enough that many still remember it and are affected by it.
A lot better than it was when I was growing up. It was a pretty rough place to be. Rough as in terrorism, rough as in bombs going off here and there, rough as in when I was a child sat at a train station beside an unexploded bomb. Things like that most people of my age in Belfast would have experienced, probably to a far greater degree than me.
To this day, Northern Ireland is still part of the United Kingdom, using their money as opposed to the euro, which the rest of Ireland uses, and many of those living there still identify more with England and its culture, which is why Conor McGregor told Paul Hughes to take the Irish flag off, which is about as provocative as you can get. I hope you enjoyed this mini history lesson on this MMA and boxing devoted channel. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Like the video if you liked it, and if you want to see more videos like this, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell next to it. And if you want to support this channel further, become a member by hitting join if you're on Android or desktop, or the link in the description if you're on iOS.
I think a lot of people would say yes to United Ireland, but when it actually came down to the actual terms of what the changes would be up here, I think a lot of people would realise and be like obviously if the healthcare and stuff, it wasn't free anymore, I think a lot of people would be like down the south they have to pay money and stuff, so I don't know. I think when it came down to it, a lot of people maybe would change their minds, do you know what I mean? But
I think just because our generation's so different to the past generations, not my age does not care about these kind of things as much as probably that they should have, me being included in this statistic. But so people don't care as much, we're a generation that there's just, we don't see them things anymore, you're friends with who you're friends with, and that's just the way it has been, and that's probably the way it will be for a while. So